Aloha everyone, Joshua Hayes at BigWaveTrading.com. The stock market pulled back today, but despite the pullback, my portfolio did extremely well. And we have some new long signals, and more importantly, despite the overall market pullback, only two end-of-day sell signals. These stocks failed early, and throughout the entire session, nothing else failed. Really quickly going over the sell signals, ALOG is a 100% sell signal. I've already been basically knocked out of almost all of it, as after going long it did not move higher immediately, and with me constantly raising stops, by the time it started to put in this red bop, I was almost out of basically 75% plus in my position. So today did not hurt at all, but it is a full sell signal. Bottom line, it's not too often I see a stock gap up under a buyout rumor and then gaps down with a lower actual buyout, but that's what happened in ALOG today. That's kind of a weird red flag to me about the overall current market. Kind of tells you that maybe stocks are just priced a little too expensively. So I don't know, maybe it's just an anomaly, we'll see. But ALOG either way is a full sell signal. And then QNST, immediate failure. It was just recently, it had a couple rounds of ad signals, so I definitely thought it was going to perform better. Added some more to it on April the 4th, added more on April the 5th, and then boom, kaboom. Actually, I think I added some, on March 29th, and then April the 5th added some more. But that thing completely crashed today, crashing well below its April support levels, March support levels, and the key February support levels. So overall, a very, very, very bad session for QNST. But thankfully, I had tight stops. I had 50% of my stops right there, another 25% there, and the final 25% there. From the original long position, QNST is still up right around, that's not right, it's up right around 9%. But with the ad signals and everything, by the time this final sell hit, I was left with an overall gain of right around 2% overall on what was remaining today. So those are the two full sell signals. And like I said, besides that, pretty good. As you can see on the S&P 500, the market pulled back on lower volume, well below average also. The NASDAQ also pulled back on lower, well below average volume. So we'll see. We're still stuck in a trading range here, but like I said, today, very, very, very good session overall. Now, getting to the new long positions, there were three. JO from my ETF, Price Volume BOP Surge Scan. ACMR from my IPO scan, as it produced a pocket pivot point signal on above average volume. And then LONE from my Perfect Speculator stock scan. It's a slightly extended from the 20-day moving average, so it has to be half. But LONE, Perfect Speculator, confirmed in the Price Volume BOP scan. JO ETF scan, confirmed in the Price Volume BOP Surge scan. And ACMR on its own is an IPO. But whenever I went to go look at its fundamentals, it's got future canceling quality stock. Its EPS growth in the most recent quarter is over 100%. Sales growth in the most recent quarter, I believe, is over 20%. Could be much higher. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But either way, JO is supposed to be 2% of my account capital. It could be of your account capital, but it must be said, JO is a slower mover. So there are two options for me only. I do not plan on buying this ETN. I plan on, and I already have looked, but I got to see how it's trading in the morning. Can't just buy blindly in the morning. It's not liquid enough. Check the options change on JO. It appears I have to play the June options. I'll check on the further dated options to make sure that there's volume and open interest on them. June appears to be the only area right now at the money and slightly in the money at 14 where there's any volume and open interest. And with that being said, it regularly has a 5-cent spread. That's not a problem with an option over 1, but the options I'm looking at are under 1. So with the 5-cent spread, I have to work limit orders, and then is the open interest and the volume high enough to get filled? Who knows? So the other option is to go to the futures, market and trade the actual coffee futures. Either way, whatever I decide, it'll be one or the other. It will not be the ETN, but if you do play off the ETN, your limit order is the high of the day, 1447, and your one and only cut loss is a break to new 52-week lows at 1408. And that's how I'll be trading the option or futures contract. I'll be trading it off JO. Whenever JO closes at a new low, that'll be my full sell signal in the options market. If I trade the futures, my final stop I'm going to look at the coffee futures, and whatever the low is, that'll be obviously my final stop. But on the options, it would all be end of day basis, no intraday stops. If it closes below the low here, I'll be out of JO. And then with the options on something like this, I would be looking at just taking profits on the way up. If it happens to go 25%, take a quarter. 50% take another quarter, 100% take another quarter, and then after the 100% you can let it ride and pull back to support levels, and if it breaks the support levels, take profits. But it's a fluid situation. You'll have to be in the chat room. Chat room has been extremely dead this week, and it's very understandable. The market's just doing absolutely nothing. Very, very volatile, choppy, range bound. But if you want to know what I'm doing with JO, you're going to have to be in there, as I'm not going to know until after the opening bell. The other new long position, ACMR, pretty clear cut. Want to get long, limit order 1274. First cut loss level right there, 1179. Final cut loss 1046. Even though it's a future cancel quality stock, it's still a volatile IPO, so only 1% of my account capital. And then LONE, perfect speculator quality, pocket pivot point signal with heavier volume, above average volume, heavier BOP, nice candle over candle price bar. LONE, with it being perfect speculator quality, obviously can definitely run, but with it being extended, got to still be safe in this market. So normally it would be 1.5% long position with it being confirmed in the price volume BOP scan in the current market environment, but it has to be halved, 0.75% of my capital. Limit order 458. First cut loss right there, 424. Final cut loss that last green BOP day with the pocket pivot point signal from the March lows, 393. And then I have two ad signals, and these are actually probably the best signals overall. EDN is from my perfect speculator scan. It was not confirmed in anything, but the pocket pivot point signal, heavier BOP, nice support hammer candle right off yesterday's hammer candle support levels. Want to get buyback add to EDN. I still have a few shares, but it's embarrassing small. I think it's like only 5 shares or something like that. Might be like only 4. Want to get long, limit order 57.37. First cut loss 54.99. Second cut loss 54.51. Third cut loss 53.77. And since it's an ad signal and the original entry is all the way back here, we currently have a 75% gain in the stock from our original entry. The final cut loss level is right there, 50.55. And then the best signal overall this evening, UVE. UVE is producing a pocket pivot point signal right off of its 50-day moving average. As you can see in this Zoom 4 chart on Telechart, there is no red BOP going back the past 9+ months. Beautiful uptrend holding the 50-day moving average despite what this market's doing. Look at that beautiful uptrend in this stock. UVE, Universal Insurance Holdings, pocket pivot point signal on above average volume. BOP surging slightly higher, back to the green BOP level. Closing near its high of the day. Nice engulfing candle to the previous price action. UVE was in my canceling scan, was in my perfect speculator scan, and then it was also my tertiary scan. Normally this would be a 1.5 to 2% long position, but it has to be halved, so it's going to be 1% of my account capital in the UVE. But I really like this pattern. I really like the low risk to the first cut loss level. I really like this chart. It's very rare that I love a chart anymore. You know how I would love this chart? If this thing had green BOP from January all the way to now, or had max green BOP from January the way now, I would absolutely love this technical setup. But as it is, I like it. And as it is, the market's choppy, confusing, weird, beholden to whatever the crazy political leaders of the world decide to say next. Isn't it amazing that only President Xi of China seems to be the only one that's rational and normal nowadays? Everybody else seems to be a little wild card, and whatever they say affects our market. So we have to stay on our toes, obey the signals, obey the stops. With that being said, limit order 3150 UVE. First cut loss level 30.45, and my final cut loss level for now is still all the way down here, willing to give it some room to work at 28.65. But like always, the first level goes before the final level comes into play. Half to all of the stop will be raised. And if this was a strong uptrending market with a strong follow-through day in the market, and this chart was loaded with green to max green bop, this is the kind of chart where I can push 5 to 10% of my capital in. But as a new signal, as an ad, nothing more than 2.5%, 5%. But as it is, keep it smart. 1 to 1.5% to 2%. I'm not quite sure where I want to go. Technically, it's only supposed to be 1%, but I think with this one, I want to push it. Since I can't push it the full amount to 2%, more than likely, I'll be putting 1.5% of my capital into UVE. All right, everyone. I'll see you in the chat room on Thursday. Aloha.